Lantern Rite, Liyue's grandest festival. A time for joy, remembrance, and new beginnings. But this year, something dangerous was afoot. A mysterious illness spread across Liyue. Shadows loomed over the border between life and death. And at the center of it all was the 77th director of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor, Hu Tao. What was a fun festival to most was a fight for survival for our cast behind the scenes. A battle to save not only their nation, but one of their good friends. This is the story of the 5th Lantern Rite, a tale of life, legacy, and unity. If you're not familiar with the festival itself, think of it as Genshin Impact's big New Year celebration. Every year, Lantern Rite brings the people of Liyue together to celebrate their history, honor those who came before, and look toward the future. It's a time of warmth, reflection, and celebration that helps make Teyvat feel truly alive. But this year, the stakes were higher than ever. A creeping darkness, an ancient legend, and a ritual that could save many lives, but at the cost of one. So let's dive into the events of Lantern Rite 2025. First stanza. Liyue celebrates and 8 adepts face a hidden calamity. The Lantern Rite festival had just begun, and Liyue Harbor was bustling with excitement. Decorations filled the streets, festival stalls had just been set up, and friends reunited to celebrate another year. But amidst the warmth and joy, something felt off. Hu Tao, the ever-playful and eccentric 77th director of Wangsheng Funeral Parlor, seemed unusually preoccupied. She tried to keep up appearances, laughing and teasing as always, but those who knew her best could tell something was wrong. Xiangling had even gifted her a new outfit for the festival, hoping to cheer her up, but Hu Tao still seemed distant. When asked, she brushed it off as just some work stuff and agreed to meet her friends at the fair after her meeting and maybe dinner later in the evening. Still concerned about Hu Tao's demeanor, the trio decided to seek out Kaching at the fair for her insight on a work-life balance. The group found Kaching at the street fair, where she showcased the special fortune coins that the coinage office had begun printing for the festival, each coin bearing one of 12 sigils symbolizing various blessings. She also introduced them to Madame Lanyan, a master craftswoman from the Chenyu Vale Artisans Association, who had come to help the Ministry of Civil Affairs with that year's street fair. The group began discussing Lanyan's work and the various games prepared for the festival, and their conversation soon turned to Taodu, a legendary divine tree that had once separated the living from the dead. Liyue's 8 adepts, 8 legendary figures believed to possess Adeptus-like abilities, had purified it with a powerful ritual long ago. Unfortunately, the storytelling was cut short when Ganyu arrived to retrieve Kaching for work. So the traveler, Paimon, Xiangling, and Lanyan decided to head back to Wangsheng Funeral Parlor to check on Hu Tao, as she was running pretty late for their festivities. It turns out that earlier, Hu Tao had been busy discussing funeral preparations with Butler An, with the lordship of the Feiyun Commerce Guild, who had suddenly fallen ill. Before the conversation could conclude, Hu Tao was pulled away for another meeting, entrusting Undertaker Fairy Lady to continue in her stead. Butler An expressed concerns about a mysterious rattan figure that appeared in his lordship's room around the time he fell ill, suggesting there might be unnatural causes behind his condition. Despite his suspicions, he refrained from making any accusations, instead asking Fairy Lady to keep everything confidential. By the time the group arrived, Hu Tao had already left for more work, so they decided to grab food while they waited for her. Near Wanmin Restaurant, they ran into Ying Er, who told them that her partner, Timaeus, had been feeling unwell since arriving in Liyue. The traveler and Paimon offered to help by escorting Timaeus to Bubu Pharmacy, while Lanyan stayed behind to watch Ying Er's store. At the pharmacy, they encountered 2 familiar faces, Chengyan and Xingqiu. Xingqiu shared that his great-grandfather, the lordship of the Feiyun Commerce Guild, had fallen into a coma, and no doctor had been able to diagnose the cause. He suspected it might be a curse, but Chengyan dismissed the idea of evil spirits, instead suggesting that it could be the fetter of death, a sign that death was near. Baiju then revealed that both Timaeus and Xingqiu's great-grandfather were both experiencing the same symptoms, accelerated aging, though the cause remained unknown. He also mentioned that he had sent Chi-Chi to Qingsa village to find a specific herb that might help. The conversation shifted to Qingsa village, which both Xingqiu's great-grandfather and Timaeus had recently visited. There was speculation that their illness might be connected to Tao Du's remains in the area, but Baizhu and Changsheng dismissed this theory, suggesting that the cause was likely something more elusive. Baizhu planned to visit Qingsa village after receiving the herbs to investigate further. Xingqiu thanked him and prepared to return home with Chongyun to relay the information to his family. Paimon, still curious about the Tao Du rumors, insisted on getting to the bottom of it, and they decided to ask Lanyan more about the situation. When they returned to Ying-Er's store, they found that Lanyan had already left. Hu Tao had stopped by earlier to pick up perfume for a ritual. But after discovering that Hu Tao was the director of the funeral parlor, Lanyan had abruptly run off after her. Ying-Er handed the traveler a rattan figure that Lanyan seemingly left behind. Concerned, the traveler and Paimon made their way to the funeral parlor to look for her. Upon arriving, the fairy lady informed them that neither Hu Tao nor Lanyan had returned yet. She had also mentioned that Hu Tao had been acting strangely lately, arriving early for work and struggling to sleep. Worried, the traveler and Paimon decided to speak with Zhongli to learn more about Hu Tao's recent behavior. They found Zhongli at Heiyu Tea House, enjoying a performance by Yunjin. When Paimon showed him the rattan figure, Tea Master Liu Su panicked, mistakenly believing it to be cursed, as he had heard rumors of a similar doll carrying a malevolent talisman. Zhongli quickly debunked the rumor, explaining that the figure actually held an auspicious exorcism sigil. The conversation then turned to Hu Tao's unusual behavior, with Yunjin suggesting that she was simply preoccupied with her duties. Seeing that the traveler was still worried, Zhongli offered a special fortune coin, a Rex coin, as a form of comfort, a reminder that Rex Lapis would always be with them. The discussion then shifted to Yunjin's upcoming Lantern Rite performance of the sanctification of Tao Du. She shared the story of the 8 adepts and their purification of Tao Du, explaining that they had used a secret art called the 7 and 8 Gates Array to seal it. The method involved obfuscating one of the gates to prevent evil from escaping. The lone butterfly of the Crimson Flame had been in charge of the gate that was chosen to be obfuscated, ultimately sacrificing herself in the process. As Yunjin wrapped up her retelling of the sanctification of Tao Du, Shengling arrived to offer the traveler and Paimon a nice meal. However, their peaceful moment did not last long. Second stanza. The funeral parlor has no master. Yujing Terrace calls the troops. 2 days had passed, and Hu Tao and Lanyan were still missing. To make matters worse, Baizhu informed the traveler and Paimon that 2 new patients had been admitted with the same symptoms as Timaeus and Xingqiu's great-grandfather. Concerned, Baizhu asked for traveler and Paimon's help, and the duo set off for Wuwang Hill. There, they met with Lielan, who had been conducting her own investigation. She revealed that Qingsa Village and Nilong Wharf had both reported similar cases, and all signs pointed to a supernatural cause. According to her sources, the border between life and death was weakening, allowing the fetter of death to seep into the land of the living. Realizing that Hu Tao must have gone to the border to investigate, Yelan and the traveler rushed to Ningguang for answers. Ningguang confirmed that Hu Tao had reported an issue with the border days earlier, but hadn't returned from her investigation since, likely stuck inside the border. In order to rescue them, the traveler sought out Xiao, who could guide them to the border. Though he was unable to accompany them due to his karmic burden potentially exacerbating the border's deterioration, he provided them with a witness sigil, a charm that allowed them to detect fetter. Armed with Xiao's protection, the traveler entered the collapsing border. Inside, they found Lanyan's enchanted rattan figures, which eventually led them to the missing trio. Chi-Chi was barely conscious, and Hu Tao was reaching her limit. The traveler called upon Xiao, who opened a passage back to the real world. Back in the harbor, Hu Tao revealed the grim truth. The border was far more damaged than before, and a simple exorcism wouldn't be enough to fix it. The only way to restore balance was by performing the 7 and 8 Gates method, the same ancient purification ritual first used by the 8 adepts. The 8 Gates referred to key nodes in Liyue's ley lines, used to direct their energy. 7 of the gates had to be activated for the array to function. The array master would then select one gate from the 8 to subdue evil, cutting off its exit path by using the ley line's power to obfuscate themselves. In other words, they would disappear from the ley lines completely, never to be seen again, taking the banished evil along with them. Hu Tao quickly played it off as merely an interpretation of the legend, assuring everyone that the array master only needed to be able to withstand a large amount of fetter. However, Ningguang, sensing something off about Hu Tao, brought up an incident that had occurred at Wuwang Hill over a decade ago and asked if it had anything to do with a border collapse happening now. Once again, Hu Tao brushed it off, saying there was no connection. Later, Lanyan confided in the traveler and Paimon about her unease regarding Hu Tao. She revealed that Hu Tao's father and grandfather had been involved in a ritual at Wuwang Hill, possibly to address a previous issue with the border between life and death. Suspicious of Hu Tao's secrecy, Lanyan decided to send a letter back home to see if anyone had any more information about the array, hinting that there was more to Hu Tao's story than she had let on. Determined to uncover the truth, Paimon and the traveler confronted Hu Tao. This time, Hu Tao finally opened up about her father and grandfather. She showed them a photo of the two, explaining that her father had passed away when she was young due to a tragic incident at Wuwang Hill. A talented spellcaster, her father had attempted to burn away the fetter, but had made a fatal mistake, suffering a lethal exposure in the process. This not only led to his death, but also affected the entire village, leaving lasting damage to Wuwang Hill. Her grandfather, deeply impacted by the incident, passed away not long after. Hu Tao expressed anger and frustration toward her father for his failure, believing that his attachment to his family and to life itself had prevented him from letting go during the ritual, ultimately leading to his tragic demise. She explained that as a funeral director, it was essential to accept death, something her father had struggled with. Despite her harsh words, she clarified that she spoke out of love and a desire to honor his memory by staying outspoken, carefree, and sassy. She hoped that wherever he was, he could take comfort in knowing that she had never stopped being herself and living life her way. When Paimon asked about the upcoming ritual, Hu Tao reassured them that no one would have to die when the array was activated. Encouraging them to relax and enjoy the upcoming street fair, she told them to meet at Yujing Terrace in 2 days to begin the ritual. Third stanza. Shimen arts and the rite of Homa. The spirits are calmed and life restored. With only hours before the ritual, 8 gates across Liyue were identified as ley line anchors. At each gate, a Homa altar was arranged, allowing the amplification of the secret art through the ley lines to incinerate the fetter all across Liyue. To ensure success, Liyue's strongest warriors took their place. Kaching at Yilong Wharf with the Gate of Life, Ganyu at Mount Aotsung with the Gate of Concealment, Beidou at Guyun Stone Forest with the Gate of Fright, Yelan at the Chasm with the Gate of Injury, Shao at Dihua Marsh with the Gate of Terrain, Chi-Chi and Baiju at Qingsa Village with the Gate of Repose, Lanyan and Ningguang at Liyue Harbor with the Gate of Initiation, and finally, Hu Tao at Wuwang Hill with the Gate of Death. Traveler and Paimon were surprised not to be assigned a gate, but they were told that Lanyan had a special matter to discuss with them later. For now, they were informed that Hu Tao had some business to take care of with the traveler. Since she had been so busy working during the festival, she wanted the traveler to join her as she handed out fortune coins to her friends before setting off to her post at the Gate of Death. Though she was all smiles, each coin carried a deeper meaning, a silent farewell, just in case she never returned. At Bubu Pharmacy, she gave Baiju a coin with a sun sigil, wishing for a world where people healed before they ever needed a doctor. Chengsheng received the cross sigil, symbolizing growth, prosperity, and balance between heaven and earth, a wish that she would soon regain all the power and memories she possessed in her prime. Chi-Chi was given a peace sigil, urging her to stay safe on her herb-gathering trips. At the street fair, she gifted Yunjin and Xinyan coins with the yardstick sigil, representing success in their artistic careers. Yunjin, sensing Hu Tao's unusual sincerity, made her promise to return for a private opera performance when everything was over. At Wanmin Restaurant, she presented Xiangling with a career sigil, wishing for her restaurant to grow beyond its walls. She also entrusted her with coins for Xingqiu, one with a family sigil, and Zhengyun, one with a spirit and vigor sigil, asking her to pass them along when they returned. Finally, at Wangsheng Funeral Parlor, she handed Paimon a treasure sigil, ensuring she would never go hungry. But for the traveler, she offered something different, a plum branch from her hat, a personal keepsake meant to remind them of her. Traveler and Paimon gave Hu Tao the Rex coin they had received from Zhang Li, hoping it would keep her safe. Hu Tao gratefully accepted it before preparing to head to Wuwang Hill, urging the traveler and Paimon to return to Yujing Terrace, where Ningguang and Lanyan were waiting to discuss the special matter they had mentioned previously. After they left, Zhang Li approached Hu Tao, showing concern for her going alone. Hu Tao expressed her determination to face the upcoming challenge, despite this being her first time ever using the array. She stated that she must drive death back to where it came from. She asked Zhang Li to return the Rex coin to the traveler after the night's events, believing the traveler needed the protection more than she did. She worried that if she did not survive, the coin's failure might upset the traveler and make it harder for them to let go. Hu Tao then revealed that if she did not return, Zhang Li would become the 78th director of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor. She brought up a phrase she often said, "Live in life and die in death," accepting that if it was her time to go, then it was senseless to resist. Zhang Li, however, insisted that no one could take her place. He advised her to focus on the present rather than dwelling on the past, quoting the rest of the phrase, "Follow your heart and do what you can." As Hu Tao departed, she reflected on the beauty of the day and composed a poem about a butterfly in a crimson bouquet, symbolizing her resolve and acceptance of fate. Meanwhile, back at Yujing Terrace, Lanyan shared that she had heard back from her family about the array. Unfortunately, she could not confirm whether a sacrifice was necessary, but evidence suggested that one person must be obfuscated due to the laws of the ley lines. Since Hu Tao's Gate of Death was being used to suppress the fetter, it implied she might have to sacrifice herself. However, Lanyan presented a possible solution: rattan figures that could absorb damage in place of their owner. She had linked several of these figures to the array, allowing the fetter's energy to be shared among multiple people, instead of falling solely on Hu Tao. Ningguang, Keqing, Ganyu, Xiao, Qiqi, Beidou, Yelan, Lanyan, and the traveler all agreed to hold on to one of these figures. Unfortunately, when Lanyan tried to connect the traveler to the array, it inexplicably failed. The ley lines did not hold any information about the traveler's existence, making it impossible to link them. This situation was unprecedented to Lanyan and left no time for her to investigate further. With the Lantern Rite ceremony about to begin, Ningguang decided that the traveler must be left out of the array, leaving them to hope that Hu Tao and the others could shoulder the burden and emerge victorious. As the Lantern Rite celebrations began, people all around the harbor gathered for the ceremony. Zhang Li arrived and returned the Rex coin from Hu Tao to the traveler as a gesture of goodwill for their future journey. When asked if he could connect the traveler to the ley lines, he explained that due to their nature, it was impossible. But this fact itself might hold an important implication. With the traveler and Paimon left to ponder Zhang Li's vague words, the ritual commenced. As Yunjin performed the sanctification of Taodu, the heroes carried out the ceremony at their respective gates, standing together in unity across Liyue. Hu Tao, at the Gate of Death, faced a much larger amount of fetter, causing marks to appear on her face and her fingertips to blacken. Despite the raging flames before her, she pressed on, accepting her fate, facing death head-on, and fulfilling her duty as the director of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor. Soon, pillars of fire shot into the sky from all of the altars, purifying the fetter across Liyue and healing all afflicted individuals. As she completed the ceremony, Hu Tao collapsed, saying that she would return to see her friends as a butterfly when Lantern Rite arrived next year. After the ritual, Ningguang confirmed its success, but Lanyan could no longer sense Hu Tao's presence, suggesting that she may have vanished or perished. Paimon panicked, but then noticed the traveler was missing. Zhang Li revealed that the traveler had a sudden breakthrough, prompting him to send them on their way. The traveler had realized that since they could not connect to the ley lines, they also could not be affected by their obfuscation, meaning that they could take Hu Tao's place in the ritual to prevent any sacrifice. Following Hu Tao's rattan figure through the border of life and death, they arrived at a giant tree, finding her belongings, including the Staff of Homa, a nearly extinguished altar, and a broken rattan figure. When Hu Tao's plum branch flew from the traveler's backpack into the tree, they saw fissures leading somewhere distant. And at that moment, we switched to Hu Tao's perspective. Hu Tao found herself in a liminal space where she heard the voices of her friends recalling past promises. To see Yunjin perform again, to join Shengling and the others for dinner, and to remember Zhongli's words of wisdom. Eventually, she encountered the spirits of her father and grandfather, who reassured her that she had made them proud as the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor's director. Though she believed it was time for her to pass on, they gently told her that her time had not come yet and that she must continue living. As they faded away, Hu Tao's plum branch floated down, and at that moment, the traveler reached out through a portal and grabbed her hand, pulling her back to the world of the living. As they emerged, the once deceased giant tree was now revitalized and purified, marking a successful ritual and Hu Tao's return. The traveler woke up 2 days later in Bubu Pharmacy, with Paimon relieved to see them conscious again. Paimon explained that Hu Tao had carried them there after they collapsed on the night of Lantern Rite, and that many people, including Zhongli and Ningguang, had visited them while they were unconscious. Hu Tao, specifically, had remained by their side the entire time. As the traveler left their room, they ran into Hu Tao, and the two exchanged some light-hearted banter before Hu Tao expressed her gratitude, acknowledging the traveler's risky rescue. Looking out over Liyue Harbor, Hu Tao observed the bustling festivities, noting children racing for fortune coins and a woman blushing while waiting for her lover. Inspired by the scene, she recited a heartfelt poem about cherishing life and thanked the traveler, wishing them a happy Lantern Rite. Final stanza, the sanctification of Tao Du. With the crisis at the border between life and death finally resolved, Shengling reminded the traveler and Paimon of their long overdue meal with friends. She revealed that Xingqiu's great-grandfather had miraculously recovered, allowing Xingqiu to finally step away from his family duties and join in on the celebration. The group decided to meet at Yilong Wharf for a proper gathering, with a surprise guest set to join them. Later that evening, at the dinner gathering, the group debated the strongest figure from the legend of the 8 adepts, with Chongyun, Lanyan, Gaming, Xingqiu, and Hu Tao all making their cases for different legendary figures. Amid the discussion, Xingqiu personally thanked the traveler and Hu Tao for saving his great-grandfather, vowing that the Feiyun Commerce Guild would always be there to support them in the future. Before the meal began, Hu Tao revealed that their special guest, Yunjin, offered a final performance of the sanctification of Tao Du for those who had missed the ceremony at the harbor. Meanwhile, across Liyue, the heroes reflected on the event's aftermath. At Wangshu Inn, Xiao expressed his desire that Yelan should have accompanied the traveler into the border, but eventually let it go since everyone was safe. At Yiyan Temple, Ningguang and Beidou speculated on whether similar ley line disturbances in Natlan could be connected, hinting at future challenges ahead. At Yue Hai Pavilion, Ganyu wondered how they had been able to decide on using the array when no such records exist. And Kaching revealed that a letter containing all the critical information about the array had appeared in Yujing Terrace on the very day they needed it. At first shocked by the risky move, Ganyu eventually realized that the only ones who knew about both the crisis and the secret art, while also possessing the ability to deliver a letter without leaving a trace, were none other than her master and her friends, the Adepti. The Adepti at Mount Aotsung shared their thoughts on Hu Tao, acknowledging her strength, determination, and the outstanding legacy of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor. The group brought the Lantern Rite to a close with delicious tea and friendly banter. At its heart, Lantern Rite 2025 was a story of unity, a testament to the strength of Liyue's people when they stand together. From the traveler's unwavering resolve to Hu Tao's willingness to shoulder the burden of duty, and the friends who refused to let her face it alone, this year's festival reminded us that no one has to carry their struggles in solitude. If you like this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel to hear me yap more about the video games I am so incredibly passionate about. Let me know in the comments what video you want to see from me next and what you thought of this year's Lantern Rite Festival. And of course, see you for next year's Lantern Rite. My name is Rita Kamishiro, and thanks for watching!